Welcome to another episode of Reseller Evolution. I'm Scott.
And I'm Carl.
And how's it going, Carl?
It's pretty good. It's raining today. And I'm watching the neighbors pick cherries. So hopefully we're going to have some cherry jam at some point. So that's pretty good. We have an Evans cherry tree in the back, and it's grown out of control. So, but the neighbors' kids are up there. Hopefully they don't fall out.
Cherry pie.
Yeah, see the reselling in a different way, I guess. It's been good. Sales are still very low, and but I've been listening. And you know why it's low? We can talk about that during the show. So, okay, I think looking through my math, hint.
We're hitting the topic of today's show.
Maybe. So how was your week?
My week's good. The booth is doing very well. I've started hammering out some listings. I have a system that, or I have a goal. Let's put it that way. A goal is a more appropriate term. I have a goal that I want to achieve, and so I'm working hard to achieve that. The timing is there for me right now, just to get my mindset and to achieve those goals, and we'll see what happens. So, I think slow is the word for eBay, but I think my fault is probably more than eBay's fault, just because I hadn't been listening. I mean, hey, I've been doing that film thing. That was probably 3 weeks in total. Just getting caught up in different things. I had to hammer the booth really hard with a lot of stuff because I was really busy for those 3 weeks. So I wasn't doing what I normally would do for there. But, I was still getting paid for it. It was still fun. I would do it again if they came back because I really enjoy it. But right now, it's all about eBay and getting those listings up and see what happens from there. So I can't really comment on it being slow without pointing the finger at myself for that.
Yeah, I think overall, it's been slow. Like one thing I was talking about with, I was watching Jackass Retro. He does a show every weekday where he does his shipping, and I was asking him there. It's like, do you think that people have been leaving reselling? Do you find that there's a little less interaction online? And he was saying, 100%. That's how he feels as well. I've kind of noticed a bit of that, as some people have disappeared. I don't have names, but some channels have slowed down, and then it's just a natural cycle. I think I like using the example of poker, where online poker became really hot, and then everyone and your uncle was doing it. And then, in the United States, you couldn't play anymore. But overall, the peak happened, and then people got really good, and people disappeared. I think. Yeah,
I would agree with that.
With the competition, I think there's a lot more in the stores for sure. I think also a lot of the stores have caught on, but also like a lot of normal people. Caught on is a long word, maybe more priced a little higher. But also people selling the stuff are trying to get higher prices. And I think that was a result of the huge boost we got during COVID. People heard about it. They're wanting to get higher prices for the stuff. But I honestly feel the cycle is kind of going on the downward trend. Not a bad thing. It just means there's less competition, right?
It's interesting that you led with this conversation. Because I'm going to tell you right now, this is the perfect reason we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about today. And that is, Carl,
the math.
The math.
The numbers.
I guarantee you, just sitting here, pops in my brain as I'm listening to you speak, that people don't get the math of this. They don't understand. When you buy something, there's also a selling cost. And I don't think people factor that in, or they don't factor that in properly.
Or they don't want to factor it in.
Because I'll go to an estate sale. I remember this was during kind of COVID. We were still getting a lockdown, then it was open up and it was locked down. So this estate sale, they didn't have yard sale. They didn't really do anything. But what they were doing is they were having times where you could come in and pick the house, and they were staggering them. You know what I mean? So they didn't have a lot of people in the house and all this other kind of stuff, and you had to make an appointment to come in. And I made 2 or 3 appointments going in there, and I did pretty good. Like, I didn't score anything huge, but what I did get was pretty was meat and potatoes kind of prices,
Yeah.
but I got a lot of it. So anyways, but the woman said to me, she goes, "It ticks me off that someone comes in here and they try to buy something for $5 and they go sell it and they post it on eBay for 200." You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "What do you care? You offered it, you give them a price." Like, I'm thinking in my brain, what do you care? Second of all, that item might not sell. They might be hanging on to it for a year, 6 months, and they're not going to make the 200 that they sell it for. There's a lot of
No.
factors in play. Now, my thought is that's not what you're doing. If you want to hang on to this stuff for 6 months or another year from now, go list it on eBay.
I
Go
know
do
they
it
want they
yourself.
want the money without the work.
They want the money without the work, and I think that's what a lot of people get caught into, and they misunderstand it. So
I think the other thing I find funny too is like if we're going to go through this topic is that I hear a lot of people kind of dissuade people from buying and reselling stuff in general, thinking that you're ripping people off. And I'm not talking about resellers saying this. I'm talking about the general public. But all I think is like anyone who works a job is exchanging their time for money. That's what we're doing. Like no one gets upset with Walmart when they buy stuff from a manufacturer and reselling it. Guess what? They're asking more than what they bought it for. You know, if you go into grocery store and buy milk, then you're not paying what they bought it from the farmer for, right?
yeah,
Or even if you work at Walmart and you get paid per your hour of work, you're not charging them exactly how much it costs for you to be there. You're making profit too. All these different ways. Or an accountant, an accountant, they spend like an hour or two, they get paid good money for their time. We're getting paid for our time too. It's just that it's more obvious when we buy that item for $5. And let's be honest, it's more like we might get $40 for it. We're getting paid for that time. And that's kind of part of the numbers, that we're going to talk about.
yeah. So, I think knowledge is key,
Mm-hmm.
and I think knowledge comes with experience. You know what I mean? And no matter what you do,
And we should be paid for that knowledge.
and you should be paid for that knowledge for sure. And that's exactly what you're doing. Um,
And we're
you know,
also
if,
curating goods. We're also going and finding the stuff that a collector wants, but doesn't have the time or doesn't have the luck of finding it, right? If you want that rare D&D book, well, you could look forever, or you could have me go to the garage sale, pick it up, put it online, give it to you for a good price. And you're willing to pay that price. You're willing to pay me for my time. And that's business. But so I don't like when people get upset, like you're going to thrift stores and taking away things from poor people. It's like, all I think is they have no idea what they're talking about. So that stuff doesn't worry me. What were we talking about? Or did I just like totally switch the subject there?
well, I was just asking how your week was.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
You said it's gonna rain, math, and then you just went on to
Rambled.
I can think, but
Yeah, I rambled over
as
you.
far as my week, the booth was good.
Yeah.
I think I already touched upon that about eBay and the booth, so everything was good as far as picking's concerned. It was kind of a rough one. We had a town wide nearby. It's about half an hour drive from here, and I went the night before and I did better. Most of that's going to go in the booth, if not everything. But we did get quite a bit in the truck. I say we because Steph went with me that day. The Saturday I went back out and I might have picked 5 items. Like, I was done by 9:30. It was like just so bad. But there was a lot of people there picking, and it was just a mess. It was just high prices for this person or junk for this person. Like, it really was kind of disheartening in a way. Like, I just kind of like, it's almost like the town has been picked over so hard. I'm not going to go back to that town. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be a good little town for for picking stuff, right? But But yeah, that being said, not every weekend's gonna be great in yard sales. So you have to pick other avenues. Did I talk last week about the Value Village, or was that on my?
Yeah, you mentioned it last week.
Okay, so
The soldiers. Yeah.
yeah, okay, so that was 2 weeks ago then. Okay, so I'm just trying to get it all straight in my brain because I do it on the Scott Sell Stuff show too. So
Yeah.
I'm
Double
probably
whammy.
overlapping a little bit here, but I just
Yeah.
want to make sure I'm not doing that. But yeah, so that's where I stand right now. So
Yeah. Like for me, sourcing, like in the last week, we should talk about that every week, really. But for the last week, I didn't do much. Like, usually what I do is try to go for a walk every day, and I'll
oh,
drive to an
nice.
area, and
Yeah,
then I'll go to a value village, and I've just been going to the local one. Um, you know, I, it's efficient because I'm kind of like there anyways. I'm not going far away. I picked up a Blue Line VCR. Have you heard of those?
yeah, I
So
have two.
you have two. So I
Yeah,
picked up one. They're worth like, I don't know, $60 maybe.
yeah, I'll put them in the booth. Yeah, I'll
Yeah. So
probably put about $40, 35, $40 on the booth.
yeah. So I picked up one of those. They're light. They're not that big, so the shipping isn't actually as bad as you might think. It came with the cables. Unfortunately, no remote, which is pretty well standard. So I picked up one of those yesterday and a little voice recorder, like the
Yep.
little mini tape ones, and that will sell for about 25 or 30. Like, it's small bunts, bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
But that's fine. Like, if I'm not spending a lot of time there. Max sold or any auctions, I haven't picked up anything. That's pretty normal. Like, right now, I honestly have so much stuff that I'm really just trying to be better at. If I'm going to pick something up, I want it to be little work. And the VCR is a little bit of work, and this little recorder is a little work, but not too bad. So, should we go to the comments?
Well, I just want to say a couple of things. I did a little bit of research, and I'm going
Yes.
to put a video on Scott Sell Stuff. Remember how I said I went to that Value Village and I picked up some things, and one of the things was an Indian, like a native wood carving.
Yep.
I found the carver.
Yep.
He was in a video by one like CBC or something like that. Him and his brother, and they were considered street carvers. And they would carve items, and they would just sit there in the street and carve
Yeah.
items.
Oh.
And him and his brother, and the guy Frank Williams, the piece I had was signed by him. He was actually a counselor as well for the indigenous.
Yeah.
And his brother was living on the streets. So he found his brother, and they kind of started this little side thing on the streets. So I'm going to connect. It's about a 3-minute video. I'm going to put that in a video and talk about what I got, and I'm going to put that on Scott Sell Stuff.
Awesome.
But it is so cool when you find
Yeah.
someone that is doing it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like he's in a conversation. It's not like a photo. Here's his stuff. Here's what it's worth. It's actually getting really almost personal, knowing these people personally, and it's quite an interesting little talk. So I really want to put that. I don't know. It's probably not going to get a ton of views, but the people that view will, I think, kind of appreciate it.
Yeah, it makes it more interesting, like the whole connection you have, and it's Canadian too, which makes it even more.
Yeah, it's on BC, definitely Canadian, BC coast, but it's definitely really interesting stuff too. And you know what? Some of these people were just poor, and they just do what they love to do, which is just carve, and they just make a few bucks to live. It's just mind boggling. But it's like any artist, and until they pass away, their art usually isn't valuable, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
usually the way it is.
That's the way it is, and they look at the Maud Lewis. Maud Lewis was selling her paintings for $1 or $2.
You talking about this?
What?
I thought this was like hush.
Oh no, we've talked about it a long time ago.
Oh no,
okay. But yeah, and her stuff is worth tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands now. So, but she's passed away in 1970. Yeah. One of her paintings was traded for a grilled cheese sandwich, and then it sold for $500,000. So it's like
Van Gogh did the same thing. He did it first.
Yeah. All right, so let's get on with today's topic there, Carl. We rambled on a little bit there.
Well, no, we're not ready for today's topic yet. We haven't
Not
even done the
yet.
comments yet.
Oh, the comments. What?
Yeah, we've got to read our comments.
Yeah, that's favorite part of my show.
So, doing it wrong. Good job with all the different tools. You covered most of the important ones. Here's some honorable mentions. Worth point. If your goods are extra rare, you get pricing here. Also, if something can't be found with pictures, they have a massive collection of books. It's a paid site, so keep that in mind. Yeah, Worth Point definitely has value if you're dealing with a lot of antiques. The only thing I found is like sometimes the prices can be really old, and it's expensive. It's like I forget how much it was a month, but it was
I
not
think
like
it's like $50 a month. I think
something like that. Like it's a lot. I think it's a lot. But if you are dealing with a lot of that stuff, it's definitely worth it.
Well,
I honestly
I just want to touch a little bit. Worth point, I still use as a tool, and I think that's a good one. I would have I should have mentioned that myself actually.
Yeah, you should have.
However, I use it differently than what probably someone who's paying for it does. What I do is I will do like Google Image or something, and what I'm trying to do is get a title so I can copy and paste it into eBay and try to bring it up correctly. You know what I mean? Because I might not even know what you call it. You know what I mean? So Worth Point will A, give me a title, B, it'll give me some information on an item, but it just won't give me the price because I don't have the membership. However, I still do definitely use that as a tool. All right, Carl.
Okay, so the next photo room, the AI tool to auto crop and replace with the background can be a game changer if you use it well. I haven't used photo room or any of that. Have you?
I know. Philly Flipper does it a lot. I honestly tried a number of different things. I did not use the backdrop, but I personally am going to the white background, and I'll probably end up sticking to it. If I have something that's white, I do have a gray background that I'll use, but I'm really happy with the overall white background, and I'm probably not going to change again from that again unless it's a white object. But
Yeah, and for me, it's a case of like it's listing is my weakness, so just getting up and onto eBay is like more important than anything else. So yeah, I just try to make sure my first picture is okay. But yeah, you do you right. But if you want to have the best looking photos, I'm sure it makes a difference.
and I'm not putting it down. Like I thought, I saw quite a bit of Philly Flippers. I know when he first talked about it and stuff like that, I went on his eBay site just to kind of check out what's going on. It does look pretty. It does look interesting. It looks good. But here's one of the issues I kind of had, and I'm not talking about now, but like then is like I remember he had one with a camera, and it was the backdrop was a beach, and it looked like the camera was sitting on the beach sand. And I'm like, if somebody really thinks that that is actually a camera on a beach, like
they don't
they're
want
going to
that
think
camera.
they don't want the camera because it's full of sand, beach sand. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if I would have used that backdrop. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's just something, one out of a billion things, but it looked really good. It just like I don't know if I'd want a camera that was out on the beach and sitting in sand. You know
And
what I mean?
we're not advertisers. We're just selling the product, right? And
Yeah,
people don't know they just want to see it as clearly with as good lighting and as honestly as possible.
yeah.
But yeah, I know like some people really like using the photo room and they find it increases their sales. So I'm going to zip through a few of them. Super glue, yep, I have that. Razor blades, yeah, I use some cleaning tools like that. Free box of 6,000 thermal labels from UPS. Oh, I wish we had that. All the tapes, not just 3-inch tape, scotch, masking, double-sided are all useful. So for the tape, another really good one is painter's tape.
Yes.
Painter's tape is good. I'll use that like if I sell comic books and I don't want them moving around. Obviously, they're in plastic bags. Some idiot online said, don't put the painter's tape on the comics. When I mentioned using it, it's like, yes, do not use the tape on top of your comic. But yes, in the bags, because it helps with it from moving around. So, and it's easy to remove. So painter's tape can be really good. These are all niche specific tools. Soldering iron, yeah. If you're into small repairs, I'm not, but it could be useful. Precious metal and gemstone testing kits.
Oh,
So
that's
I
a good
do
one.
have the acids, but I haven't used them, so they're probably bad. So I don't pick up enough jewelry, but yeah, you can definitely, even in Canada, you can get these acid kits. I think it's like $20 or something, but they do expire after a year. Ring sizer and calipers, yeah, if you're into that. Foam head for hats, yeah. Easy after Halloween, I find the value of villages are filled with like these big boxes just full of heads, so you can get them cheap at that point. Well, knowing Value Village, maybe not cheap. Black felt body parts for jewelry display or for your creepy dungeon. I do
Well,
have one for necklaces.
that's interesting. Foam hat head for sure. That's for your hats for sure. I do have the ring sizer, but again, I haven't sold my jewelry yet, so I have to get onto that. The precious metal and gemstone testing kit. I started with that, but I still not confident enough to use it properly. So what I'll probably do is take it to like a pawn place. So anything that I'm just going to scrap, and then I'll have him check out the other stuff. I got a good rapport with him, and so he's done that for me before when I'm taking things to for scrap, and then he'll test a few things that I want to keep.
Mm-hmm.
But and the soldering iron, that's interesting. I don't really get into small repairs, but if you were someone that could do that kind of stuff, a Dremel set all could be added to that as well, because it could help you with, fixing little things. Like I have a folk art wood branch here with some birds sticking out of it. You know what I mean? So little tools like that could definitely help for sure. But that's those are good lists, and I'm sure we're still missing a bunch that other people could add.
Oh yeah, no,
Even considering the ones that we talked about last week. Like there's definitely a lot of things that people could for surely use for sure. But I those are all good ones. I don't know about the free box of 6,000 label thermal labels from UPS. Free box.
Canada Post actually gives us some free things. You can get, like, have you ever ordered off Canada Post for materials?
Oh,
So like when you order, like I used to get those little packet clear plastic shipping
yeah,
envelopes, if you know what I mean.
yep.
But online they also had poly mailers, and they were it was stupid cheap. It was like $1 for like 100 of them or something
Really?
silly. It was just so cheap. It was kind of like, why you even bought? And they were eBay. I don't know if they still have that. I haven't bothered because I don't use the non-padded poly mailers too often, but they did have other stuff. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to read one here from Randy, Nova Scotia
Yep.
Celt 5218. Hi, Carl and Scott. Lots of great ideas. Some I am using. So that was based on the, again, doing it wrong was talking about it too, but it was based on tools of the trade, which was the topic of the show from last week. Wish I had purchased the scale with the display to the side. Definitely use the sleeve for comments. Yeah, I have a scale where the display is hooked to a wire, and it can be kind of placed anywhere, so you can read
Yeah.
it, and it's far away
Yeah.
from your package sitting on the scale. So that for sure. Definitely use the sleeve for comics and magazines. I just think it looks good myself too. Then insert the Ziploc bags to protect the weather. Customer service is so important. It creates repeat buyers. I 100% agree with that. Regarding show on math, I aim for a 4 times cost. And we talked about 30%, but he actually tries to get 25%, especially on books and magazines. Yeah, the books I try to even do less than that, because books can hang around for a while. Um, like for sure. And magazines, it depends on the magazine. If I think it's something that's going to sell quickly or has a good value,
Yeah,
that
like there's an asterisk. Like I find like magazines, if you're lucky, they sell for like $10 American with a few, outsiders.
yeah.
So I'm usually going to pay $1 a magazine.
I kind of put DVDs in that too. Like I usually sell my DVDs for like $4 to $5, right? And they're
Yeah,
all horror. But if they're good ones like Halloween or Child's Play or something, I'll pay up to $1, because a lot of people at yard sales, but then I'll try to get like, you know, 6 1 for free or something like that. You know what I mean? I'll try to like, well, I got 6 here. Will you take 5? You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
I find
so because but they're great sellers out of the booth. Like it's a
yeah,
guaranteed money. You know what I mean? So, and then I bought some VHS and I was really happy. One of the VHS I had was a Halloween 3.
yeah,
You get Halloween. I mean, these are not sealed, so they're different. But like Halloween is usually around your $10 to $15. Halloween 3, or sorry, 2 is is around $10, and I can get that out of the booth. But the Halloween 3 is like a $45, you know, value because it's Season of the Witch. It's just, I guess it's more rare, harder to find. Not sure, but I'm going to sell that on eBay. I'm going to test it. I'm going to watch it first while I'm working, but then I'll probably put it up for about 45, $50 on eBay. But it's kind of one of those things where, you know, you might pay up a little bit if you know it's going to sell quickly, but if it's something that's going to linger on or you don't really know about, then I'm really bringing down what I'm willing to pay for it for sure.
yeah. Usually for media, like I don't pick it up, but I wouldn't pay more than maybe a quarter for a normal DVD. And I find like at garage sales, unless you're buying in big in bulk, it's hard to get prices down that low because they're going to want $5 for a DVD that probably sells for at most $4. That's usually what I see at garage sales.
Yeah.
For magazines and DVDs and stuff like that, it's when you buy in bulk is when you have the best chance to actually buy at a good average price.
Yeah, I got some
My experience.
I got some 1970s Sports Illustrated. Um, the whole box, I think there was 33. A couple of them, like 2 or 3, were ripped covers off, so I had to throw them
Yeah.
out. They weren't great content either. Uh, but I what I pay probably I think I paid like $20 for the box, and then I put $10 a piece, put them in a plastic sleeve, and set them in the booth. You know what I mean? There's a good one in there. It's George Foreman. I didn't even check. I know I slapped my hand. Maybe it's worth 50 or $100 online. I should have checked it, but I just grabbed a bunch of sleeves, put it in my truck, went to the booth, and then I just sleeved them up and I just put them all for $10, right? $10 each. So, um,
That's
but I
why.
mean, I sell 2 of them, I get my money back. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it sounds like a lot for magazines, but I don't think it was, right? So I think it's good. But thanks again for another informative show, Randy. Well, thank you, Randy. Thanks for another comment. And you got the next one there, Carl?
Yeah, sure. Doing it wrong. Carl, you can make a boatload of money making a web app to do accounting for folks. Yeah, I'm retired. I'm not doing any more programming. I never really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it if I felt it was useful, but I have no interest in doing anything except for myself. um, I'm so excited for next week. You can ramble on and Scott can just nap. Well, that's funny. We actually did that at the beginning of the show. It'll be a hoot.
Oh, wait, what? I forgot to set my alarm clock. Did you say something, Carl?
I have my laptop here ready. I got the Excel sheet ready to go.
Wow. Oh, I need to go get a coffee. But yeah, and he continued here too. If I need some art made, I use ChatGPT. I'm gonna start using more ChatGPT too.
Mhm.
Just I started using it. I kind of drifted away from it just because I'm just busy. But it's very interesting. Like not just ChatGPT, but other AI imageries and musics and different things like that. It's definitely not incredible, great, and professional art, but it's infinitely better than I can do. I agree. I'm in the same vote. I also know folks who use ChatGPT to write descriptions instead of eBay's horrible AI tool. Honestly, I've been using the AI tool. I do have to go in and usually add or subtract or change a sentence or something like that.
Yeah, it's funny. I
But
can't stand it.
you can't stand it.
No, when it adds
No,
all the airy stuff there. This
yeah.
most collectible antique from blah 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 will be a wonderful addition to your collection. Blah blah blah. I can't stand that stuff.
Yeah, it's a little over the top for sure.
Yeah, and it's
But
like, hey, but if you enjoy using it, more power to you. I'm like get to the point kind of person, and all
yeah,
that airy stuff just like makes me irrationally angry. because
I
I
like
don't
the first
care.
couple of sentences, usually just introducing the item
Right.
and that it's a piece of Canadian history or something like Canadian history or something like that.
Right.
But I definitely go in and kind of play with it and make it a little better myself. Um, I also know folks on the ChatGPT who write descriptions to the eBay tool. Okay, I haven't seen anybody mention the built-in eBay feature for creating listings from pictures. Uh, I'm not.
No, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I didn't know about. I'm not even sure if it's implemented yet, but they've mentioned it in their presentations. Interesting. Uh, Built-in eBay feature. See, this is what I'm saying. Pretty soon, you're going to put your item in a box. It's going to take your pictures and list it. Like I'm telling you, Carl.
We shall see. All I
That's
know
where
is
it's going.
eBay search doesn't even work very
And I'm
well.
telling you right now, I'm going to save this because I'm claiming copyright
Right.
rights to that. So
Okay. There you go. All I know is half the time when I use eBay search, it doesn't find stuff, and I have to go through Google to find stuff on the site. So, yeah, their tech is not always up to snuff, I think, but that's another
well,
topic.
I think we're so in the beginning stages of it. Like,
Yeah,
you
but I'm
know what
talking
I
about the
mean?
old stuff.
Like, I'm not saying if they came out with this tomorrow,
Yeah,
it's going to be dinosaur, like, it's going to be primitive in comparison to what's going to be available 3 years from now.
mm,
You know what? You know
I
what I
hope you're
mean?
right.
So,
I hope you're right.
yeah. So I'm kind of talking like a little bit further down the road, but they got to start somewhere, right? So, but anyways, guys, thank you so much for those comments. It's all great information, and I don't see anything I disagree with at all. Like I think,
No, it's all very helpful.
yeah, very helpful, and it's just right on point for sure. And I appreciate your guys' comments all the time. If you want to write something that is more controversial, so we'll have a conversation because I feel like I'm being pandering to the like I agree with you or that's a great point. I'm only saying that because that's the way I see it. There's nothing to challenge there. You know what I
No,
mean?
well, this is not exactly controversial topic, is it?
I
I guess
don't.
the
I
mostly
think
is what
challenge.
I was talking about earlier, where people don't like resellers because they say we're taking things away from people who don't have the means to buy stuff. And all I ever say to those people is like, "Have you been in a thrift store lately? It's like packed to the gills, filled with stuff. You go to the back, you hear the crashing, smashing of them breaking objects that don't sell.
Yeah,
But apart from that controversy, how bad? Maybe if you rip someone off really bad, but we don't talk about that on the show. We talk about that on the after show. I'm just kidding.
no, but yeah, I'm just saying I totally agree with what these guys are saying. They're obviously been doing it for a while and have lots of
Mhm.
knowledge and experience. So definitely like hearing from you guys and appreciate your comments. So Carl, where do we go from here?
We're going to talk about numbers
Oh my
and math.
god. But we're
Now,
gonna try to make this interesting. Energy, Carl. That,
energy, yes,
that's
energy.
that's your mantra.
Wait.
Energy.
I got to get my Excel sheet working.
All
So,
right, I'm gonna slip off to Tim Hortons and grab a coffee. I'll be back in about 2 hours.
okay.
You should be just wrapping up by then, Carl.
So I'm going to start with a good one.
Okay.
What do you record, Scott? What numbers do you record?
Well, we've talked about this before.
Watch him side this question. Keep
No,
going.
we've talked about this before. I
Okay.
record my items. Here, let me grab my book here, Carl. My books. I record my items and how much I paid for them.
You know what's funny is I don't.
You don't record them?
I record my bulk buys. That's it. I don't record per item. So I have no idea what I paid for something in my inventory. Because it didn't have any purpose to me.
So I say that again. I'm kind of looking for my book here, my books. But what are you
He
saying?
hasn't done his homework, people. This is when he's like, oh.
I know.
I can't just wing this one. Carl's asking me questions. What am I going to
can
do?
wing it. I can wing it. It's just I was just going to try to be a little bit more transparent. So what do I record? I record as I'm listing the item. I record what I'm listing it on eBay. If I put it in the booth, that goes in a separate book, and that's for what I put
Oh,
on
wow.
in the booth. But then
Yeah.
I put how much I paid for that item with a running total. So, and it's monthly. It's categorized. Well, it's kind of categorized maybe weekly, but it's basically like monthly. So I know how much money I've spent on the items that I've listed.
This is what's fascinating for
I don't know if
people who are
I don't know if
listening.
I'm answering your question. You're like, how do you record items? Like, I don't know if
No,
that's
no, I said, what do you record? What numbers do you record? What do you keep track of in general? So, okay, maybe it's best if I start from
okay.
my perspective. Okay.
All right. All right.
So one of my basic rules for any numbers is if you're going to record something, make sure it has some usage if it requires any work, right?
Right.
What we don't want to record is or calculate as things that are meaningless. So the example I gave last time is people who do return on investment and reselling, which is a completely worthless number in my opinion. I use return on investment when I'm like buying property or if I'm buying stocks and stuff like that. But in this case, when you're buying an item, like I talked about that blue VCR and I bought it for $13 and I sell it
Well,
for
okay.
60.
I don't want to disrupt you here, Carl, but I have to step in here where
Okay.
I disagree with you. I think the return on investment is one of the most important things.
But what I see is this, okay?
Okay.
I made 1,800% on this item.
Okay.
Does that mean it's good or does that mean it's bad?
Okay. So what I'm saying is any and this is the problem when we get into numbers. And so this will turn into a boxing match.
I
So this
feel like
might
we're going off the
this might
rails
be
already.
entertaining. This might be entertaining for
Oh
everybody,
man,
actually.
we
But
haven't even got started in it and we're off the rails.
you know, here we go. So I think any statistic you want to make sway one way or the other, anybody can make an argument for anything.
But that's what I'm
100%.
saying.
I
This
think
is
I think
garbage.
that's the power of the ability to debate. You can make
Okay.
any statistic.
I know what you're doing. I know
You
exactly
can
what
make
you're
any
doing. You're trying to
statistic.
get political here.
No,
And we're
no,
not
no, no. I'm not getting
uh-huh.
political. But I'm saying if you're
Uh-huh.
saying I don't know what number you throw at me, 118%, right? So you're going to say, so if you sold something for 5 cents and you made 118%, is that better than making 50% on something that you paid $100 for? Like,
Exactly. And that's why that stat is worthless.
so but I think if you're into selling micro amoebas for 5 cents a piece, then yeah, it like, but what I'm into is my return on investment is huge for me because of what I know I'm buying. So when my return on
Okay, so what you're
investment,
talking about isn't return on investment. You're talking about margins.
no, I'm talking about return on an investment, but I don't. But at the same time, I don't think it's black and white. Like I think return on investment is important, but it's not black. It's not black and white. So if you're looking at return on investment and you're selling things for $30 on average, return on investment's huge. But if you're selling
Well, it
cars,
depends on what you bought it for.
if you're selling cars, then your return on investment is still huge if you want to look at it at that angle, but you don't need the same return on investment as you do for stuff that you're selling for $30. Now, if you're selling a million things for $30, your return on investment is not as important as if you're selling 100 things. If you have $100 and you're selling things for $30 and you can only buy so many,
Oh man, you're losing me.
it's all within what you're it's all within what you're doing. But I think if you want to call it margins or return on investment, I think to me they're the same thing.
Except they're not.
Well, it's a matter of how you want to
There's
look
no
at it.
opinion. Okay. Before we get stuck in the weeds, how about
Okay, everybody have a good week. We're all done.
I'm gonna change topic. I'm gonna change subjects. Like I'm gonna tell you what I record.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay.
Rather than I don't record. Okay.
And if it's singing, I'm putting on mute because we can't listen to you record your singing. It's like
I don't
listening
even know
to
what you're
nails on
talking
a
about.
chalkboard.
Now you're
Eh?
completely losing me. Okay. So numbers. Okay, I gotta even side. If you want to keep things simple,
Yeah.
the best way, if you don't want to record anything, well, you have to record stuff because of taxes, right? But if you don't want to record, if you want to know if you're making money or not, the best way to do that is without recording anything. Just have a separate bank account.
Right. Okay.
All your eBay money goes into there. Then you can see, like, if you want to see if you're making money, well, if that number goes up and down, then you can know you're making money over time, right?
Right. Right.
So I highly recommend that as a side. Like, please, for the life of God, do not mix your personal income with your eBay income,
Which is
because
more likely to be done if you're working and doing this
yeah,
part time.
and the problem with that is you don't really know if you're making money, because if you're mixing the two, it's really hard to keep track of it. So it's not that expensive, but I think sometimes people don't want to know that they're making practically nothing, and so they mix them up. But
Well, I mean, I think those people, if they're working full time and they're doing this as a hobby, that they
yeah,
could just be doing it for enjoyment, and it's kind of just paying for itself.
true. But we're not talking about enjoyment. We're talking about making money, right?
Okay.
This,
Well,
this is what this is about. We're talking about making money, right?
right.
Like,
So, but those
we're
people
not
that want to do it as a hobby, I don't have a problem with that. Like if they know what
Oh,
they're doing.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's not our audience. That's
Okay.
not why we're here. We're not talking about making $0 at the end of the day, right?
Okay.
We're talking about money.
Right.
Okay. And we're
So
Canadian.
return on investment's not important if you want to make money.
Don't even start that. Okay. My God. Drive me nuts. Okay. So there's just a few. I record every month. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, what I keep track of is the number of items I currently have in my store at the beginning of the month, how many I added, how many I sold. Okay. That's not that hard to keep track of. It's easy. And if you can record anything, that's important, because you want to see how you're doing in terms of your listing. Because I don't know about anyone else, but I have a really bad memory of how much I've listed. And I can tell you, when I was doing really well in 2001, 2002, no, I'm not going to make the joke. 2021, 2022, I was listing a lot for me. I was listing, let's see, between around 150 to 200 items a month, which is a lot for me. And it was showing up on my sales. Now, if I didn't record that, I'd have no idea. But what I can see now is pretty sad. I'm probably listing about 50 items. Yeah, you had that ready, you bastard. Oh man, I wish I had thought of that.
Okay, sorry.
Oh no.
Sorry, Carl.
Okay, my point is, I see it's so off the rails. It's so hard because it's like, it's so boring, but it's so important. It's just one of those damn things. Now, so I recorded those numbers so I can tell if I'm listing enough, right? And I can tell I'm listing about a quarter of what I used to do, and it reflects in my sales. But if I didn't write it down, I wouldn't know. But the main thing is, it takes no work to do this, right? You don't even need Excel. You can just write it in a book. The information over a long time period is important. But I'm not just obviously recording that. I'm also recording all the stuff for my taxes anyways. So a lot of this information is handy. And what I can see is I'm not just guessing what my margins are. So I can actually look through. So do you record that? Do you keep track? Like, for you, it's a little different because of the booth, right? So
I keep the booth separate from eBay. So
but
I mean, basically, it's the same kind of idea.
yeah,
Like if you said a couple things here, Carl, that I kind of, I know people are going to scream at me, and I know they're going to say, "Oh, you don't know," but everybody talks about doing things so they can compare year over year, right? So I don't think you have to look at past books to know if you're doing better or not. And the thing is, each year is different. Each month is different from the other one, right? So if I'm growing, like, I think I'm going to know if I'm putting, I don't know, if you're selling 100 items a year, and then the next year you're selling 1,000 items a year. That year, the last year where you're selling 100 items, can't really be comparable. The only thing I would think and maybe I'm wrong here, but I think the
Yeah,
only
you're
thing that
wrong.
huh? The only thing I think you can compare is maybe your dollar cost average per item, or how much you're paying out for those items, or if you sell 100 items but listed 200, but now you have to list 10,000 to sell 1,000. Like, I think those kind of numbers, but I don't need to look at last year to understand if those numbers aren't matching.
And I'm saying people have bad memories, and people like having black and white rule sets rather than looking at the actual math.
Yeah, so if I was
And
to look at it, I
if you
would
don't
say,
record, if you don't know your past, how can you predict your future?
well, I don't think you can predict the future. You
I
can
think you
guess,
can.
you
I
can
think you
guess
can.
the future, but you
You
don't
can make
know.
you can make educated
You
guesses
can make an
about your
educated
future
guess, but I
using
can.
the math. But if you don't have the math, you can't do that. So often I hear this. I want to make $20,000 on eBay this year, right?
Right.
And that's the extent of their plan for the next year. I want to make $20,000. They have no idea how many items that takes. They don't know how much inventory that's going to require. They have no idea how much I need to list to actually make that goal. They just come out with that blank statement. I tell you, man, I hear it all the time.
Well, but
I
I
can
think
tell
that's
you exactly what I need to do to reach that goal. And I can tell you exactly because I have the math to back it up. And I have the math because I write it down. That doesn't mean I'm going to do it. That just means I at least I know, because I can, like, if I want to make $1,000 a month, I know how many listings I need up there to do that.
but this is where I'm saying, what
Okay.
if all of a sudden those items are 50% more than what you paid the year before?
Well, that's because
Then,
that's why you average it out.
or those items that you sold are 50% less because everybody else has flooded the market with them.
That's why you average it out.
But what I'm saying is that, so to average it out using last year's math, and I'm not saying
I'm not
it's
talking about
totally.
last year's
I'm
math.
not
I'm talking
saying
about
it's
averages here.
totally. I'm not saying it's totally worthless. What I'm saying is, I don't think it's as strong, and I could be totally wrong. And
You're totally wrong.
I know, I know.
For people
And
listening, this is why it's good that we have two different personalities on here,
we
because
have two
you'll
different
find
person.
someone you agree with. You
What's
should, of
that?
course, they'll find someone they agree with. Of course, they should agree with me rather than
Wow.
you. That's an obvious,
Well,
right?
I think, and I'm not just saying this.
No,
I think you're a very smart person, Carl. I think you look at things with a different eye than I do, and I respect that. So I hate to I hate to say that you are wrong,
but here's the but.
but 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 I see it differently. I see it that what's more important,
Mm-hmm.
you 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 don't, oh, how do I say this? Like, I think you always learn from the past, without question. I'm not saying that. I think you always learn from the past, but I don't think it's the numbers necessarily, because you can make a gazillion dollars on one thing, and the next year it's the market's changed, and you could go broke the next year trying to do what you copied last year. So I'm thinking, I think you got to predict the future by following the market and trends. And I say market like it's stock
See,
market, but
yeah,
I'm not
because
really
we're not
talking about
really
that. I'm talking about
yeah,
market.
we
Like let me put it this way.
okay.
I wanted a booth downstairs. That booth is going to cost me more per month than any booth upstairs, but because I got a booth downstairs, I can start doing furniture. And furniture was really hot a year ago. So now I got the downstairs booth. I'm paying more rent to put in furniture that is not selling at all this year. But if I looked at last year's numbers, I would say, holy shit, furniture, you can make a ton of money. But now it's a pain in the ass to move. It takes up a lot of space in your booth. I'm paying more rent to do that. And if I looked at last year's numbers, why am I failing this year? So what I have to do is kind of play it with what is trending, what switched, where are people moving to, and it's a constant.
All that
That's a
is important.
constant battle. That's a constant battle. I
Yeah.
don't have a problem with it. I know it's out there. I enjoy it, but I think it's all based on return on investment. So if I'm going to go buy furniture at the prices I would have last year, I'm going to fail. But if I can go buy furniture for with a 20% on investment, or 100% on 200% on investment, I should say, then I can reduce my costs. I can throw it in an auction. I can get rid of it quickly because I bought it with the return on investment in my mindset, and I can move on and pivot quickly. But if I paid $50 to sell it for $100, and I can only sell that for $20,
I think
now
what
I'm
bugs
stuck.
me is when people's return on investment is about investments. It's not about flipping goods. Flipping good isn't it doesn't really work well. I don't want to get caught back into that because I don't even think I can articulate what I mean that well. I'm just saying that number is often ridiculous in this in what we're doing, and it's not a helpful number. So now the booths are. I'm talking about online, right? So when I'm talking about, like, for me, like you have a diverse.
Well, I don't. Let me just correct you there. I don't think it is much different. Let's put it
No,
this way. I don't. Let's put it this way. Like a year and a half ago,
yeah,
you could buy things at a certain price, and you could sell them on eBay. But now the market has changed by eBay, because now if you want to sell, you have to add in promoted listings, which is going to cost you 10%, maybe 12%, maybe in some cases 7%. But if your margin was 7% and now you're paying that to promoted listings, you're screwed. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I think the market's always changing. And if you're trying to compare last year's with this year's, and now that all your sales have to come through promoted listings, you're going to be severely disappointed.
Well, that's why for my math, I use the 12-month rolling average.
Yeah, but you're using last year's, where I think this year everybody's going to be doing
I'm
promoted
using the
listings.
last 12 months, not last year's.
Okay. So you're still 6 months of your. So because promoted listings is now playing a factor, maybe you should just say, I'm just going to use the 6 months because we're in a different time now. You know what I mean?
Well,
If you
promoted
use,
listings is a little different. Like, I wasn't quite finished my numbers.
okay.
So
All
put
right.
on the snoring music, put on your sunglasses. So I can tell you my average margin. So my net is 46.95. You're doing a pretty good job. Your eyes are already glazing over.
it's, it's just the sound of your voice, girl. I don't know.
This stuff is so, like, it's so helpful. So, like, I know for every $100 I sell, like, gross,
Yeah.
including shipping. So, like, if I sold something for 80 plus 20, that'd be the 100, right? I'm going to get $46.95 in my pocket. That's important, I think, to know how you're doing overall.
Yeah, but that's my point.
Uh,
I think I don't need last year's numbers to tell me that.
it's not last year's numbers. It's a 12-month rolling average,
Okay.
right? So I can tell you about how many items every month I sell out of 1,000 items. What is it? I have a rolling average. Oh no, I should have written that down.
It's hard to hear you, bud. You're not.
Yeah, sorry. I sell 0.12% of all my items a day. Right? So what is that times 30? That's 0.4% of my items. That can't be right. Oh no, I should have written this down.
Yeah, because I don't make it that complicated for me. Like I would probably I would probably not do this if I did it that way. To be honest with you, I
It's
kind of
not
look at it.
necessary. It's just useful. Like if I want, I can tell you what my average sales price is, right?
Yeah,
My average net pair item that I sell, right? I can tell you that
I
from the
can tell you
math.
that too.
I can tell you what percentage of my items I sell a month, right? So since I know how many, if I have 1,000 items, I know how many of those will sell a month. I can tell you the average net per item, right? So if I want to make $1,000, I can easily reverse the math there and say how many items I need in my store to make $1,000 a month
Yeah,
net. If I
yeah.
want 4,000, I can easily say how many items I need in my store to make 4,000 a month. What I'm not using is my gut, and it's accurate because over time you average out the same. Now there's like in Christmas, yeah, you sell a lot more, and then right now you sell a lot less. But on average, I can tell you what I'm going to need. So I can predict the future. Actually, I'm fairly good at predicting how many items I'm going to sell the next month before the month even starts because of my numbers.
Yeah, see, maybe I'm just a genius and I don't
Oh, I'm
realize
sure you
it
are.
because it just
SMRT.
no. I'm just saying, like when I look at my booth,
Right.
I can tell you that on average, I like this is average. It's quite a big average, but it you'll understand when I explain it. I sell anywhere from 250 to 350 items a month out of my booth, right? And I can tell you my cost average per item
So,
is
so, so can I
is
interrupt you?
yeah.
So you say you sell 250 to 350, I think you just said?
Well, I also said that I'm going to explain a little bit more detail what happens. So this is not a
How do you know that number?
because I've calculated it.
Did you just take it out of your butt, or
No.
did you actually know?
I've added up the
Okay.
items.
Okay.
So and I've even kind of got a cost average. But here's what I'm saying.
Okay.
This year
Yeah.
is surpassing last year for whatever reason. I think personally, I think if we had a very mild winter. Some people would say we didn't have a winter. So I think more people were not knowing what to do. So my sales actually increased. So I also got a third booth, which is obviously going to increase sales because I'm putting more items in the store.
Hmm.
Um, for the first couple of those months, the new booth, it took a while to get that filled up, right? Like it takes a while because you're still stocking the other two, you know. And then I'm just saying that there's always variables. Like Anna asked if I would clear my one booth out so another vendor could take that one. She could build up this other area and I could take over a space in there, which is the same, probably even a little bit bigger, but it's basically the same size as the one I had to clear out of. But she had to get that vendor to move over into another one where I could take my stuff and move it into my big booth upstairs. A little bit of a complication there, but it made sense at the time for sure. So now that cost me time, which prevented me from completely filling my booths. So if I'm able to keep my booth stocked and full of items, I'm going to make more money than if I can't because time is now not allowing me to keep up with the sales in the booth. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, so this year would be better numbers. If I'm moving, I can't believe how much better than that I was doing January, February, March. Because January's good, but February kind of slows down. March is usually slow. April slow. I haven't had a slow month yet. I was thinking June was going to be slow, and then I had two really big sales. I'm ahead of July. I'm ahead of July. Like it's double what I'm needing to make each month. Like I have a set goal, and I've surpassed that every month. In July, I've already doubled it, and we're not quite halfway in July. We're a third way, but
So you say you have a set goal every month, right?
yeah,
Is that gross?
it would be gross, yes,
Do you know your margin?
for my items.
Yeah. Like, do you know how much you net from your booth for an item?
It varies greatly between each item. So, like for instance,
On
I
average, I mean.
bought I bought two boxes of beer glasses, which I put $5 a piece on. I paid $10 for them, $5 a piece. I got shot glasses, $5 a piece. I put $3 on the shot glasses. Those things sell all the time. People come in and buy 3-4 glasses at a time, right?
How much do you make off of those, do you think?
Well, if I sold 4, so let's say there was 30 glasses in total. I paid $10 for them at a yard sale. I have $5 a piece on them. To get my $10, I got to sell 2. So everything else is gravy. I already showed you the CD example on how for $50 I bought over 200 CDs.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that because we had 200 labels printed and we didn't have enough labels. So there was over that. $50. I put $4 a CD, right? So I sell 15 CDs, I get my money back. And I still have 200 plus. So I don't really have anything invested in those CDs once the first group is sold, if you want to look at it that way. Or you can look at it, I have like a dime a piece. You know what I mean? However you want to look at it.
Right.
Glasses are the same way.
But you don't have a dime piece, do you? Like you have the booth cost, you have the buying cost, you have the even just the your car, your time. Like there's all these other costs
Right.
in there as well.
Yeah.
Time is a little difficult often, but yeah, like I'm not disputing like the fact that
like you were impressed with the way I do the CDs because we have a pretty good system at the antique store. Like
yeah,
great. I'm lucky to be where I am. I know that.
Because everywhere I've looked, they don't have that UPC code style.
Yes, and we do,
which is a game changer. Like
it's huge. Yes, I agree. Because what happens is I buy. It was over 200 CDs because I estimated about 200. We got 200 labels and we didn't have enough. Steph went back and had to get more made up. So those CDs, I peel off the sticker, put it on the CD. Peel off the sticker, put it on the CD. It takes me 20 minutes. We have them all done. We go. I put them in a box. And I just set them in the booth.
That's a good example of like time, the cost of time, right?
And that's why they went to the UPC code because on their end,
it's so much faster.
It's so much faster. When you got 10, 15 people standing in line and you got to type in 5 items per person, now they just scan it. So that's why they go into the UPC code.
So that's another aspect. Yeah.
Christmas time, there could be 30, 40 people standing in line. I kid you not. At Christmas time, on Pumpkin Fest, there could be more than that. Like sometimes you have lineups going all the way into the nobody knows here, but you can go into another section. Like people are waiting in line. We've seen people just drop their items because there's such a big lineup. You know what I mean? And they gotta fix that. They gotta.
Well, can you imagine what it was like if they didn't have those stickers?
So that's what they got the stickers for. Because you can have 2 tills going. They have 2 tills there, and you can have 2 people operating, but you have to have people bagging it. You have to type it all in. You know what I mean? So they go with the UPC thing. It's a scan. It's in the system because what they got to type in is the price, a brief description of the item, plus the code for the vendor. So those codes could get mixed up if they were manually typing it as well, and they're trying to hurry. Like my code is BS. Someone else's code is SS.
Your code is BS?
Yeah. Because there's another SS, so mine, Scott Sherman.
Right.
So my middle name starts with a B.
I
know everybody jokes about it, Carl. It's funny.
Oh, I thought I was the first person ever to do it.
That price is BS. Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I know. I couldn't help myself.
I know. I don't know why I agreed to it at the beginning.
It's obvious.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of variables, but
Oh man.
Some beer glasses and some CDs aren't as good as the others. So now there's a section of them that's probably not going to sell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what do? I'll take them to auction.
Yeah.
If they're sitting there for a long period of time, I'll group them up, take them to auction, and now I got more space to put in better stuff or more CDs. So it's a constant battle. So it's really hard to kind of judge it in certain ways, because if I don't put those CDs in, and I'm only using CDs as an example, there's things I put in there and I can't believe what it sells for and that it sells at all. But people are looking for oddities. If I think something's really good, it might take a while because maybe I thought it was so good I priced it too high. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
other things, it's just one of those things you just shake your head at sometimes because it doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
and I think price point is a big factor. So if you buy it too expensively and you look at it like a return on investment, you got to look at it with you could call it margins too, but you have to leave enough there to weather the unpredicted storm. Let's put it that way. That's a good term, the unpredicted
And
storm.
that's what numbers are good for, is help predicting. I know you
Well,
don't believe that.
I can understand that, but I think all you've done is look back at and you've analyzed what happened during that time,
The
but
last
you
12
can't
months,
the last 12 months, but that doesn't mean what's going to happen in the next 12 months.
it will be close to the line that it was in the last 12 months.
Okay. And that's fine. I'm just saying
I can show you all the
I don't need
boring
a
graphs.
spreadsheet. I don't need a spreadsheet to tell me that. I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
I,
That's,
you know, it's just so funny. Just I'm coming out of this like maybe a bit like a programmer, and so I'm using the numbers. I don't know. It's just a different mentality, right? Like, because like I'm not denying that you're not making lots of money. I'm not
well,
denying that you're doing well, right? I'm not denying that you have a great margin. I'm just saying that for me, I know my exact margins. I know down to the percentage what it was. Yes, in the 12 months, I can't predict the future. No one can predict the future. Let me know if you meet someone who can. But what I can do is if I want to do goal setting and I want to make $4,000 a month, I can tell you how many items I need in my store to reach that goal. It's not going to be 100% accurate,
yeah,
but
because
it will be within a margin. It'll be very close.
yeah, but then I'm going to ask, well, what type of items?
Well, just general, the type of items I've had in the last 12 months, just more of them.
Because there's a lot of items I'll never
It,
find again.
yeah, but
It might be years.
you're finding the same type of item on average in 12 months.
Like I just sold those ship lamps for
Right.
$500. I haven't seen ship lamps before, or I haven't
No,
seen them
but
since.
you'll find something else that's worth $500. Like, and you're
Oh,
talking
for
about,
sure.
and also you're talking about the outlier there, right? Those big ones. Most of my items, actually, my average, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, but I just think
My average gross is $52 per item sold. Gross.
yeah. So then you're
So,
putting pressure. Are you putting pressure on? Okay, I need to find like if you're just
no, I need
basically
to
doing
list. Actually, it's
toys.
not need to find; it's need to list.
No, but I'm just saying. So now you're putting pressure on yourself to find more cameras. Like I think cameras are soon, possibly, and I don't know because I can't predict the future. But I'm thinking, wow, how long can these go on? Because so many people
Don't say
are
that.
putting. What's that?
My camera is my most profitable areas.
I know. Like, what happens if
Don't
those
take
go
my
out of
keys
favor?
away. Oh no 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 no.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm just thinking. I think you have to, and I'm not putting yours down. I just think I see it differently. Like, it's nice to look back and say, see how much I've made, but I don't necessarily like. I can say, okay, this is what I kind of trend to make over a month, whether it's a booth or eBay. Like, this is kind of where I want to go. but I think it's common sense. Like I don't need a spreadsheet, I'm thinking, and maybe I'm wrong here, and maybe this is where we're getting crossed up, is I don't I don't need a spreadsheet to tell me like, Scott, you're only listing 20 items a month and you need to be doing that 20 items a day for 5 days and you're going to make this much more. I know that. I just know that.
I'm just
Right?
saying that there's a lot of people who quote unquote know that, but don't actually know that. They think they know that, and they're confident. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about they're very confident in their thinking that they're right.
Let me tell you.
You know what doesn't lie to you? What doesn't lie to you? Like I said at the beginning, your bank account.
Let me tell you a little story.
Okay. Fine.
I'm going to tell you a little story.
Oh my god, this is such a mess of an episode. It's like
we're going to have to do a part 2.
We're like bouncing a ping pong, and we're both like using different rules for the game. You know?
Yeah, that's right.
That's out. No, that's in.
I'm using a ping pong gun, and you're using chopsticks to hit it back and forth. No, I'm just kidding, Carl.
Jesus. I just. Okay, go ahead.
I know you're going to switch it around. You're going to end up being Danielson, and you're going to be able to pick the pong with those chopsticks out of the air, that ping pong ball. Anyway, okay, where am I going with this? So here's where return on investment is important to me. And
you're just using that term to piss me off now. You're just trolling me now.
Okay, so what would you do? I bought those little toy soldiers. Okay.
Yeah.
I put them in the booth.
Yeah.
And based on what I paid, you put them in the booth. And you know what they did? That person, and this is not supposed to happen because we don't allow 10% off an item unless it's $25 or more. And I had the 32 and they took 10%, which is only $1 a piece. So I had $10 a piece on them. They took $1 off of each one. That's $32. But that's 10% they took off that payment.
What's your point?
So now if I'm paying 20%, if you calculate my rent, this is what I do too. We pay 13%. We don't need to be in our booth. We just stock it. They have people, they do all the system, everything, but we have to pay 13%. That 13% also covers debit and credit card charges. So it used to be 10%, and then they would charge based on the but we do 13% across the board now.
Right.
So what I do is I take my average of what I pay for my rent and what I make, and then I subtract the 13% and my booth to come out with an overall percentage, which if it's a really good month, it can be like 20%. If it's like an average month, it's usually around 25, 22% in that range. But if it's a really bad month, that rent isn't diluted so much over all the sales. It's diluted less because there's less sales. It can jump up quite dramatically if it's a bad month.
And that's why you should average out things over time to give yourself a proper idea of what on average you're doing. So it's like the bottom line with the numbers, right?
No. Let me finish. So these toys,
right?
If I put them on eBay, it's 13%.
Yeah.
If they sell promoted listings, it could be another. I have 5 to 10% based on promoted listings. They give me a little warning. This is not what we recommend, so it might not get the visibility, but I'm not going to pay more than 10%. So 5 to 10% is what I'll put for the ad percentage thing. So now we're looking at 18, 23% in there.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing 20% and they take 10% more, now I'm paying 30%. But the max I'm going to pay is 23% on eBay. Where do I sell this? You know what I mean? Do I put it in the booth? Or am I going to say, listen, I'm going to pay 13%. At the max, I'm going to pay 23%, where I'm going to pay 25% at the booth with an additional 10% on top of that. So
but you're missing one key thing.
Now, listen for a second. So
I'll try.
My thoughts is, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm not going to put those items because those are great shippable items
Mm-hmm.
that sell well on eBay. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to make more percentage on them. I'm going to have a
Mm-hmm.
bigger return on my investment. So now I'm going to sell it on eBay instead of taking it to the booth. I'll use that space in the booth for something that's not so acceptable on eBay. It's not. It's more of a pain in the ass, or I'm going to lose on shipping, or whatever the situation is. I'm going to throw that in the booth. The booth still plays an important part, but those are things I'm fighting with all the time. Like I was going to sell those toys on the internet, but a guy came into the store and says, "I hear that you have these things. Like I'm looking for them." And I says, "Well, if you're looking for them, I can bring them in the store. I'll bring them at the end of the week," which I took them in there Friday. They were gone. I'm assuming it was him. But if I'm doing him a favor by bringing these in, you know what? Screw that. If he's going to take 10% of my profits, I'm going to put them on eBay and I'm going to sell them there. That's kind of where I'm thinking all the time that way. So,
Okay, can I counter some of those things now?
you have 10 seconds. Then it's the end of the show.
Oh,
No,
yeah, we're only Jesus.
Just kidding.
You're not accounting for your time. You're not accounting for returns. You're not accounting for shipping materials. You're not accounting.
Well, okay. Let's put it this way.
Wait. I wasn't done.
I totally
I
am.
am talking now, and I have the talking stick.
Okay.
All that stuff is important.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
What's your return rate on eBay?
But then there's also a possibility.
What's your return rate on eBay?
Just let me finish. There's also the possibility of theft at the store. Low probability, but that is there, just as as a low probability for a return. You could put
theft is interesting because that would be really hard to account for.
You could put, well, we have an inventory system, so
yeah, you can see what's anyways, sorry, I'll shut
so
up.
You could say bubble wrap or whatever, like shipping costs and stuff, but let's face it, these things are light. So I'm usually charging $10 and it's usually $7, $8 to ship it. So I'm making a couple bucks there, which covers usually the low amount of bubble.
That's in your margin.
Return on investment. But but you know what I'm saying, though. You know what I'm saying, right? Like there's ways of offsetting that stuff a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, I get it, Carl. I'm just talking about these men. Like there's some things where I'm going to lose $5 to $10 on shipping.
I'm just saying, like, you didn't account for your time, because if you're selling the soldiers on eBay, right?
Yeah,
you have to take pictures, you have to store them, you have to answer any stupid questions you get. Yeah, you have to pack them, and then you have to deliver that package to get delivered for somewhere, and you have to deal with any returns, right? Not just the eBay fees, not just the promotion fees. You have all that, or you can price that item, and you can put it in the store on the shelf, and some guy comes in and buys a whole lot. Now, it's complicated because you probably can't get as much in the store as you could online. So maybe you actually have a slightly lower. It's not the same price, but I'm just saying. We're derailed. I admit we're derailed. But
well, I think I could argue the fact and just be an ass and just be devil's advocate, but I'm going to agree with you. There are variables like that in here, but I think that's what we struggle with all the time. And I think if you're overlooking that and you're not taking that time if you're not investing your time to figure out the struggle of what to do properly, and we're all going to make mistakes, or we're all going to do things that doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, there's also gas and time to drive there, drive back, get a Tim Hortons coffee because it's calling my name because I'm driving by there. Like, there's all sorts of other things that cost money. You know what I mean? The time that it's going to take me to say hi to everybody, which I love to do. It's fine, but it still costs me time to go there and get distracted. You know what I mean? Because it's just part of the game. And I'm not playing. I love going there and talking to people, but I'm just saying, if I'm just sitting here taking pictures, I could probably list 4 or 5 of them in one listing. Because they would have been grouped up in lots, and took pictures and listed them. I could probably have done 2 or 3 by the time I get there. let alone coming back, and you know what I mean,
Mhm.
all the
Mhm.
other things. So, but I'm agreeing with you. Like I don't dispute that. You could also argue the fact that I'm already taking stuff there, so the time doesn't make a difference because you're already going there with other stuff. So
You don't want to get too nitty gritty because in the end, these numbers is just information. But
for
what
sure,
I'm saying is knowing your numbers is important if you want to plan for the future and if you
right,
want to grow your business. If you don't know your numbers now, a lot of people will use their guts or just say what I said before. I want to make $5,000 this month, but they have no idea what they actually need to sell or list or have in their inventory to actually do that. They're just using their gut. If you're just using your gut, no, I'm not talking about you.
right.
I'm talking about if people just use their gut, it's very easy to feel good about your predictions and then wonder why nothing happened. And if you don't have if you have your numbers, you can know what you need to list a day to reach that goal. I'm not saying you will, because like if it was just that simple, I would do it. But I'm just saying I know exactly how many listings I need because I have the math to prove myself right, and I can predict the future within a within a range.
Yeah,
And
but
what I'm saying
I
is these
guess my
numbers are
point
so
is,
easy.
I
There's no
think
work
I
to
think
do
my
this,
point is
right?
to do those spreadsheets
It doesn't take
and
any work.
to study them.
Hmm.
Just to me, to you, it's helpful, but I'm sure there's other things that I would do that you would say that wouldn't help you. But I'm just saying, I think it's a step that I don't need to overlook. Like I'm not a bookworm. I'm not a book person. You know what I mean? I'm more of like I just kind of I don't know. I
Use
just
your
do it
gut.
different.
You
I
use
well, I think it's more my
not
gut
your
because
gut, your
it's more my
intuition.
gut, Carl. I think it's
Yeah,
more my gut
yeah.
because I could sit here and tell you the numbers percentage wise. And
Mm.
at one point, I would have figured them out in my head, and I just know them. You know what I mean? Because I sat there and told you the percentages and how much they're going to take off and how much it's, you know, if I'm paying 30% because they're asking for 10% off, but the max I'm going to lose is 23%. You know what? Like I have those type of numbers in my head. I know them. I think you need to know them.
And you're talking about individual items, and I'm talking about overall business.
Well, I'm not. I'm giving that individual item as an example, but
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
I do also have the
Mm.
numbers for the overall picture as well. But it's kind of in my head. It's just from
Yeah, it's
right.
intuition and from experience,
Yeah, like
but not everyone feels comfortable doing that, and that's fine. Like this is a perfect example, right? Where we have two different ways of doing things, and that's fine, right? But
yeah.
what gets me upset is when people complain about stuff, but they have no idea how they're actually doing either way. They're just they're just kind of guessing at how they're doing. Or like I'll get this, it's like, oh, here's my return rate. I think mine's like 5%, which is really high. But that also includes if people cancel their sales because I'm just using Excel sheets. But people say, oh, that's really high. And so I ask them what theirs is, and they have no idea, which is
Well,
fine. But it's very hard to tell if you're doing well or bad if you don't even know if you don't even know how you're doing, right? Or
but I
like
think
you can't see if the trend lines are going the wrong direction. So, for example, the other thing I record is what's my overall value of all my inventory on eBay, which is easy to do. You just go to your listing page, shows your numbers, and it shows how much is in your store. It doesn't matter that that's not the amount you're going to get because you're just comparing that number over time, right? And I can see the value of my store has dropped in half, if not more. I'd have to look. I don't want to turn around, but it's dropped at least by half from my peak, which means I have a lot less valuable things in my store because I have more items now than I did before, but my store is worth half as much as it used to be. That's a problem. At least I can see that, and I can maybe hopefully turn that around if I wanted to. But if I didn't have that, I'd be just using my gut
yeah.
saying, why did I sell so much more in the past? I can see all the reasons why. My average selling price has decreased. My average return has decreased. Maybe my returns have gone up. Maybe I have to switch stuff with that. But if you don't know your numbers, how can you fix things?
Well, and see, I would look at it differently, and I get what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not disputing it. I just think we look at it differently. Like I think I look at that all the time. Like if I was to have a bad month, I would say, what the heck is going on? Like, so for the store, for instance, one thing I'll do is how the store's doing. If the store's doing very good and I'm doing shit, that's on me. That means something is wrong with what I'm doing. Do I not have it stocked enough? Do I have just old stuff that's not doing well? Do I need to freshen it up? Do I need to lower my prices? You know what I mean? But if the store's not doing well,
Yeah.
and that means I'm not doing well, that means, okay, something might be wrong with the market itself. Something might be wrong with the economy. It might be a certain time of year. There's other variables that I have to look at. You know what I mean? What is selling at the store? Like, is that not what I'm into? For me, I'm into everything, so it doesn't really pertain to me. But there's a thing called shabby chic. I don't know if you know what that is. Shabby chic is kind of like a farmhouse look, but it's all kind of in that white, you know what I mean? Where they've taken old furniture and they've painted it white and they kind of
Okay.
have this rustic
Yeah.
look to it and stuff. So it's that used to be huge, huge money, but I think it's starting to drop off now. And I think
Yeah.
people are starting to not do well. But there was a time you painted something white, it's going to sell. Like it
Market
was.
trends. You're talking about market trends.
So that's a market trend. So
Yeah.
those things you have to kind of keep an eye on, right? Like all these things play a big part. Just moving your items around, giving them a different look, putting them on different parts of the shelf. We've always talked about eyeline. So what I'm saying is, if I'm doing something good in the past, and I'm doing something wrong now, I have to figure out what that is. But I don't need last year's numbers to determine that. That's just kind of that's just me. I like you
Right.
might rely on it, but I might rely on something that you're going to say I would never do it that way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure we all do something different. I think as long as you're looking at it and it works for you, you're fine. But if people are doing something like you said, but they're not looking at it, but they're having these bad results, that's
That's
probably why.
that's the problem,
That's
right?
the problem.
If someone's selling online and they say, "Oh, I'm doing horrible," and you ask them, "Well, has something changed?" They don't have the answers to that. That's an issue because you can't fix stuff when you can't when you're blind. It's a black box. You don't know, right? Like if you don't know your average selling price is decreasing, well, how can you fix that? How can you turn that around? How can you change what you're buying if you have no idea?
And
Right?
another variable, and I'll just speak to the booth, is Waterford's a small town and we are growing leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
So we are the population is increasing. So I expect to do better next year than this year simply because there's going to be more people coming to the store because the
Yeah.
town is growing like unbelievably. It's crazy. All the people from the city I think are coming to Waterford. But the housing prices are gone through the roof. They're crazy. They have for a long time. But um if the store does a huge marketing campaign, they did one this year. They had uh, a weekend where it was the 25th anniversary. They were open up an extra day on the Monday. It was a great weekend. They now have dragon boat races, which I don't think they've ever had before. Unbelievable weekend. It was in the little river that runs across the road from our store.
Yeah.
The weekend, everybody had a great weekend. We couldn't believe how well the store did. So there's all sorts of variables that's going to change things all the time. You know what I mean? If we have a January, February, March where we got 10 feet of snow and every day is a snow day, the store's going to do shit. You know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
still paying rent. I'll tell you that. So, like, I don't know. I just see it differently. I just kind of play it based on where I am at, I guess. I don't know. I see it differently, though.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Carl.
That's okay.
Are you getting mad?
Wow, what a mess of a show that was, eh?
You didn't get your well. You're quiet because you're saying, "Listen, we went too long."
Oh, I was looking at that time thinking no one's listening to the. We should have a prize if you've been listening this long at the end.
I'm gonna have to do some heavy editing on it. That's for sure.
long.
So
Oh my god!
everything
So
you say, I'm just gonna quiet it except for just before the snoring part, and then I'll
all
play it.
right, okay. All I'm saying is, if you sell mostly online and you want to predict your future, record your numbers. and so you can see what's going on. Having a 12-month trailing average is very useful. That's all I can say. And if it's not for you, don't do it, because at the bottom line is what matters the most is what's in your bank account at the end of the month.
And here's another thing that I struggle with too.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more efficient to sell on eBay than it is the booth? And maybe is
Well,
it going to be
sorry.
is it going to be better for me to maybe get rid of one of my booths because I would have more time for eBay, which gives me a better percentage. You know what I mean?
So we didn't talk about the concept of time. A calculator for when I want to pick up stuff from Max Sold. I think I mentioned that before. It tells me how much to bid on items.
Yeah, see, that's we do things so differently for sure.
Yeah, so if there's something that sells for like 200 online, right, and like it's in an auction, I know, and I put down how much I want to make on that item. And honestly, for when I'm picking up things from like Max Sold, my margins are much smaller because I find you have to kind of bid to the bleeding edge a bit to get stuff, but it's still worth it, right? And when I say bid to the bleeding edge, I mean kind of like I don't want to pay that much, but I'm willing to pay up to that.
Yeah.
And I can put those two numbers into my Excel sheet, and it'll tell me how much to bid.
Yeah.
And it accounts for time too. It shows me how much I'm making per hour. It's not the way you buy. So, anyways, we can talk about that next time. It's another snore.
You do it so differently, man. So differently.
And
that's good. I like it. I like that there's different ways to do it out there. See, I don't use any calculator at all. I just have it in my brain. That's like, I don't know. It's just
I don't trust myself.
You don't trust it?
I don't trust my brain. No.
Oh, I don't know. If I think something's worth $100 and I'm at an auction, I'll go to like $20. That's it.
Yeah, but what happens if you should have gone to $30?
I don't want to.
Yeah, and to me that's a missed opportunity.
To me, I'm going to go to the next item where I can get that for $20.
See,
and I have a better return on my investment.
Okay. Screw you. This is over. This is the last podcast, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. No, it's all good. It's all good. It's just, anyways, I hope some of that was helpful to people.
I think it was entertaining because I'm gonna go back and like, what the, you know how we have those times where we didn't really listen to the other person, and I'm gonna like, that's not what I thought Carl was saying at all.
It's totally one of those episodes.
Yeah, and I'm like, I didn't really express myself properly there.
I didn't either. I didn't get out half the stuff I wanted to talk about. But
all right, so let's do this for a part 2. I think we could probably do like years of this type of conversation. But
well, this is where comments will be really useful.
Yeah,
and people who say we're completely off our rockers, or like Scott was right or Carl was right, or like a combo or both or whatever.
It's probably a combo of we're both right, we're both wrong. Like, I would not for an instant say that my system is the way to do it. I'm just saying it's working for me and I'm just kind of going with it, right?
Mm-hmm,
but I don't have a business background. Like I did PI for 12 years, well, 16 years if you want to count the first 4, but 16, and then worked in a factory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have no business background.
Hey, I worked in government. Money was just like something we just like set on fire every week. It was great.
Well, I know. Your leader, your fearless cult leader is doing a great job of that.
No, I get all that too. You can do math as much as you want, but the bottom line is like, is it useful? And do you find it useful? And the answer is no, don't do it. Right?
Yeah. I think if you're conscious of it and you're looking for it and you're strategizing around it, I think you're gonna win. Right? Because even if you're doing it wrong, eventually you're going to realize that. So you're just going to change until it works for you.
Yeah. And the thing is, if your train is coming off the tracks in terms of like profitability, it's really useful to have the math to actually have a unemotional look at it without the gut, right, and see exactly what is happening. And if you don't record it, you don't know. Right?
Yeah.
And if your train is going great, then you don't need to look.
And you're in overall money out and money in is the most important, I think. Like
that's where a lot of the old
have I made bad buys where I lost money? For sure.
Oh yeah, my system won't even catch that. Bad buys, it kind of gets melded in with everything else.
But if I can break even on a bad buy, like, okay, that's fine. Or I paid very little for something, like compared to what I would like. If I got $20 into something and it was broken or I can't resell it, like that doesn't hurt as much as if I invested $1,000 into something that nobody wants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think you just kind of like, I think if I was to look at the past, it would be kind of like items that people really want. You know what I mean? Like,
we should have that as a topic too. Like,
it's trends. I was just about to go down another wormhole and explain myself, but I'm not going to because it's gone long here.
That'd be good. Topic two is like looking for market trends and keeping on top of them, because I am not good at that.
Yeah.
But we could talk about that too. I think like I find some of the people who are really successful are actually good at that. Maybe we get caught in traps of like, is it old? Is it good? Old is good, but sometimes it's not all old is good, right? Like these, I was showing pre-show these plates. They're old, but they're probably not good. You know. Anyways,
and if I got something like that, Carl, like I mean, heaven forbid that it happens often, because so far it hasn't. But I mean, I could still throw that in the booth and get my money back, you know, or have a yard sale and get your money back. You know what I mean? Like, there's options out there. If you just want it out of your mind and you just want to donate it and write it off, I mean, that's an option too, right?
Oh, I've taken stuff, brought it home, and put it in the donation bag and taken them back. Like that I try to avoid that as much as possible. But anyways, I don't even know where we're going anymore.
Hell in a handbasket.
Oh man.
But all right, so we'll just cut it there. That was a good talk, Carl.
Well, thanks everyone for listening.
Hopefully there's a show next week. I don't know, Carl, are you in for it or what?
Jeez. I want to see some comments. I want to
listen to what we actually said.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, because I think it could sound like a real train wreck for sure.
This is the longest show yet.
Yeah, for sure. This is 2 shows in one.
Oh man.
But I'll edit it heavy. Anyways, everyone, thanks for listening or laughing or
crying,
turning the channel,
or changing the channel. Yeah.
So have a good week, Carl. You have a great week.
Yeah, you too, man.
I hope you find something with a huge return on investment this week, because
wow. Yeah.
Okay. The punches. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Carl can read through the screen. He'd like grab my throat. I know. All right, buddy. I'm just kidding you. Have a great week. Have a great week, everyone. We're here every Friday. Spotify and YouTube. Reseller Evolution.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.